It's a Red Friday edition of the Intangibles brought to you by Arrowhead Addict. My name is Bryce Carter, and joining me, as always, it's my partner in crime, my good friend, it's Christian Ainsworth. Christian, did you have a good Halloween? Did you do anything fun or exciting yesterday?
No, not really. I'm kind of at the age where it's kind of weird. We're past the point of actually practicing Halloween and going out in a costume and everything. I don't have any little kids or anything. So, and then just renting an apartment is not super fun for Halloween either. Nobody's trick or treating your door. So yeah, I just kind of hung out, bought low on some of that candy, and yeah, I've been enjoying it, man.
Did you go any parties or anything? I have to live vicariously through you as the father of two children.
Yeah, I went to a few, but it wasn't anything super crazy. I was Heisenberg this year as my costume with the
okay, that's what the mustache was. Okay, nice.
Yes. Yeah, I've been gearing it up for it a minute. So
nice. Okay. Well, I mean, as a parent, that's one of the best things about being a dad is what's old is now new again. Like when when you don't have kids and it snows, it's just a pain in the ass to clean off your car, trudge into the office. But when you have kids, it's the most magical thing ever when it snows. And, having kids, it makes certain holidays feel brand new again. So Halloween's definitely one of those. It's a great Halloween to be a dad or a parent. Obviously, the whole trick or treat thing. We always have a couple of friends over. We make a big old pot of chili. My neighborhood rocks for trick or treating. So, I mean, there's people out there handing spiked hot chocolate out to the parents and stuff. It's a great scene.
Oh, so, my gosh, dude.
Yeah, I'm a huge Halloween guy. Anything that allows me to cover my face with a mask and eat a lot of candy sounds like an ideal holiday for me. So we'll get into some Halloween content today. In fact, we're going to do a little fun episode today. So we're just going to power rank everything today. We have a whole bunch of categories from wide NFL categories to Chiefs categories to non-sports categories, and we're just going to power rank. So Christian and I are going to give our 1 through 5 on each one of these and talk about them a little bit. Just kind of a fun way to touch a lot of topics. Chiefs are kind of in this weird place where it's like a little mini bye since they play on Monday. Not a ton of breaking news. The addition of Josh Uche. Well, let's just give 10 seconds to that real quick. Thoughts on Joshua Uche, the newest Chiefs?
Oh, better than prime Frank Clark, dude. I mean, he wears 55. He looks outstanding in the Patriots uniform. Yeah, bring him over.
I can't tell if that was a Frank Clark dig or not, because depending on what your opinion is of him, I don't know. It could be taken a lot of ways.
No, he's got some juice. He looked pretty good. He's got a few. I'm sure everybody that has, heard about the signing has seen that one where he bends around the edge against the Bills and sack fumbles Josh Allen. That was an incredible play. That was from a few years ago, but he still looks like he's got some juice. And until Charles Omenihu gets here, yeah, it'll be perfect for the defense. I just wonder what it means for Mike Dana. Is he going to be out for a few more extra weeks, or same thing with Charles Omenihu? I wonder if it was just an opportunistic Veach signing, or if it was we need somebody.
Yeah, I think the two conditions for me that I really care about this trade, other than just the Chiefs got better, is one, what does it mean for those guys? Who's the odd man out on the defensive line? If it's Malik Herring, that's fine. I would really like to not see that be FAU losing reps to those guys. If FAU's wearing street clothes on the sideline, definitely not thrilled with that development. I don't think that will happen because he's been playing a much bigger role in the run game lately. And then I'm interested to see what this looks like. The Chiefs have kind of looked for a bendy, smaller speed edge rusher for a while now. They went to the well twice with that with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. They also did that with BJ Thompson, though that hasn't really worked out for some health issues. They even tried a little bit with Joshua Kando. It seems like they've had interest in getting this type of guy here in Kansas City for a while, and it's just not really worked. And then there's even been quite a few draft connection rumors to Joshua Uche and the Chiefs back whenever he came out of Michigan. So I'm interested to see what this looks like. I think a great pass rush is one that can throw. It's kind of like a pitcher, right? You want a bullpen that's full of okay, this guy throws 101. This guy throws a bunch of off-speed stuff. This guy is a submarine style guy. You just want a lot of bodies and different types. So I am hoping that this makes the pass rush more multiple, and I hope it means nothing for the health of Mike Dana and Charles Omenihu. Sometimes with the Chiefs, these things never surprise us. I still think it'll be a little bit on a minute, Hugh, even though he tweets like he's getting ready to go to war at any given day, which is cool. You know what? Like mentality, you got to have it. It's important. But yes, it's a good addition. And I think like the investment, like it basically could just be a pick swap if he walks on free agency. You'll take it. I think honestly, it's been a bit of a buyer's market as far as the trade deadline goes so far.
Oh, yeah. Lots of like really, really quick, easy deals for teams. Like Deontay Johnson was basically just given away. DeAndre Hopkins was super cheap for us. Like Amari Cooper was cheap. It's like, yeah, it's super easy to get talent. And it seems like they're making the most of the opportunity. Like Kansas City has been linked to a few cornerbacks. We've got a defensive lineman, just got a wide receiver. Like, yeah, deal, Veach. Go out there, get something.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. It's going to be a crazy Tuesday. Our country is electing a president and the NFL trade deadline, which, I mean, choose which is more important. I'm not exactly sure, but in all seriousness, go get out there and vote. Please participate in our democracy in PSA there. While we're making public service announcements, I want to make another public service announcement about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Guys, you got to get on the action over at Underdog. It's a great time. It's a great way to make any game more fun. And I've got to tell you about this new game that they have. It's called a Red Zone Rush. And imagine if you took Tinder and combined it with the NFL. You can swipe right or left on players to see if they're going to be higher or lower on a certain pick. Just pick whether or not a player will score a TD by swiping right for yes or left for no. It's as simple as that. I mean, I don't know what's better, like swiping left and right. You just combine that. I'll admit, I was out of the dating game whenever Tinder became a thing, but I hear it's fun to be swiping and piping on people. But anyway, when you're swiping,
hold on, swiping and piping. Price.
Yes, that's what my friends call Tinder.
Okay, all right.
Have you ever been at a party and just seen a guy like swiping right as fast as humanly possible?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. God. So, but anyway, back to the Red Zone Rush. You're going to not do that because it's easy to win at Underdog. You're just going to swipe yes if you think that player can score a touchdown or left for no. It's as simple as that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted and you'll get 51% profit boost. Another nice feature, they have vulture protection. So if you select a designated running back to score a touchdown in your pick'em entry and they get vultured, they will rescue your entry. This happens all the time where you get that goal line back. Let's say you got Kyren Williams and you want him to score a touchdown on Thursday night football, but then here comes Blake Corum. Well, guess what? Underdog will rescue that entry for you. Another thing that I've been playing around with, they have these packs that they're like kind of same game parlays, but a little bit different, and they basically fit a narrative around a game. Last Thursday night, I used it for the Rams and Vikings game, and my pack centered around a shootout, kind of like a higher scoring game with Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, Kyren Williams, and Sam Darnold, and it worked out nicely for my wallet. Let me tell you, because that was a shootout. So play with those packs, play with the Red Zone Rush. It's a great way to get in on the game. You want to download that app today. Use the code Arrowhead Addict. That's all one word to get up $1,000 in cash bonus instantly. Again, that's code Arrowhead Addict, all one word to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Underdog Fantasy, select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in on Underdog. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.mpcgambling.org. Arizona, call the 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. All right, we're power ranking today. So we'll start with the football and we'll blend in some other topics here. Just some rules of operation here. Power rankings, the way that they go is you start at 5 and work your way up to 1, right? No one starts at 1. You gotta work your way up. So I think the best way that this should go is that I give my 5, you give your 5, and then we go up. Okay? So first category, our biggest concerns for the Chiefs three-peat. So these can be players. These can be like positions. They can be, I don't know, maybe they're other players. Maybe they're external factors like a global pandemic, anything like that. So we'll let you go first, Christian. What is your number 5 concern for the Chiefs three-peat?
Number 5 concern. So I think it's important we scale this, right? This is not close to number 1. This is very, very distal from the most concerning thing on the team, but it's defensive line. And I understand that Charles Omenihu is probably coming back. Mike Dana is injured. He's going to be coming back. and we just got Josh Uche. But I mean, it's still one of those things where you look at it and it's like, the defensive line is like not just the sum of its parts. It's like, very much intermingling. Like, each position is very reliant on the other one, if that makes any sense. So like Chris Jones is reliant on George Karlaftis on the outside to get pressure on the outside so that he can, win one-on-one matchups, things like that. We just haven't seen, we've seen consistency out of Chris Jones, who's playing out of his mind. George Karlaftis seems like he's kind of maybe hit his ceiling. He's still applying some pressure, but not nearly at the rate that he was in years past. Mike Dana looks good. I almost said Taco Charlton. Tershawn Wharton. Yeah, that was a blast from the past. Tershawn Wharton is making a name for himself. Like, he's playing very, very well. But again, it's like one of those things where this is like the first year that he's done it at the rate that he's done it at. So it's like, can we count on that for the future? Is that going to be something he can keep up for the entire season? It's like, we don't know. We kind of are still fitting these pieces together. The defense looks fantastic, but defensive line still kind of wondering where that ceiling is. Like, the Spags defense utilizes its DBs, but it's really based on that defensive line and getting pressure. So yeah, very, very interested to see where that's going to go.
Yeah. To your point about Chris Jones, let me read you Chris Jones's snap percentages since 2020. So how many defensive snaps percentage is he taking? 2020, 69, 2028, 68, 2022, 80%, 2023, 73%, 2024, 80%. So Chris Jones right now is tying his career high in snap percentage in his age 30 season. And also, there's a lot of high numbers in there. We have a 69, 68, 80, 73, 80. He's got a lot of miles on him. And keeping Chris Jones healthy down the stretch, it's super valuable. It's going to be a huge part of this defense continuing its success into the playoffs. And the other thing is the Chiefs quietly have kind of struggled with getting sacks with four-man pressures. They have been very effective with the blitz, and their blitzes look a lot of different ways. Sometimes it looks like they've got a defensive lineman that's dropping into coverage, and then they bring an extra linebacker or a corner. But they've had to manufacture pressure. And getting that four-man pressure, I think that's part of why Uche was brought in. Obviously, I think they just need to add some depth there, too. With Amenahue, with Dana, with Uche, you start talking about being able to get some reps off for Chris Jones, being able to get reps off for guys like Tershawn Wharton, and keeping those guys fresh. We've seen some of the, that's kind of the 49er way on defense, where they just have these like platoon system of pass rushers where they believe keeping their guys fresh is as important as anything. And that makes sense, right? Like, pass rushers, they swarm. Tim Grunhard, the center for the Chiefs, he has this analogy about pass rushers that they're like sharks. When they get blood in the water, they go like crazy. But if there's no blood in the water, they are just kind of nice and calm and swimming side to side. Pass rushers, they flurry when there's activity. So being able to keep them fresh and have all that energy, that creates more pass rush. They're more engaged during that time. So great take. For me, I'm just going to put one out here that I feel like we're kind of feeling a little bit right now here in Chiefs Kingdom, and that's bad luck. And I don't mean like luck of the Irish, like weird stuff. I mean just like the misfortune that can happen in any sort of game. Sometimes weird stuff happens. Football is a game played with an egg-shaped ball that bounces weirdly. And we've seen Patrick Mahomes have this. In fact, Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than turnover-worthy plays this year. He's had some interceptions hit some receivers in the hand and fall right into the arms of players. He's had 2 tip balls be intercepted. That will bounce around. And then there's other stuff, right, too? Like, it could be not Patrick Mahomes. It could be, I think, quite frankly, the 49ers. Part of the reason why they lost the Super Bowl last year was some bad luck, where a punt just happens to glance off of the returner's leg and the Chiefs are able to muff it. Now the Chiefs took advantage of the opportunity. The 49ers were allowed to stop them and hold them to a field goal in that instance, but it didn't help. So that's just, and I hate describing it as luck because that sounds so like non-analysis. Yeah, it sounds like, but honestly, these are just the variance that happens. That's why you want to get the 1 seed. So that way you have one less game for weird stuff to happen. A snap go over Patrick Mahomes' head through the back of the end zone. All the weird stuff that helped the Chiefs be down 24-0 to the Texans before they even blinked in 2019. That variance, that wackiness, injuries, like all those things, they all just kind of compile into bad luck. And that's how the game goes sometimes. And they've already experienced quite a bit of that with injuries. They've already gotten 2 or 3 starters that are out for the full season. So just kind of keeping that variance away from them, it sounds silly, but that is a huge obstacle.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. And I like the way that you put it there. Like, bad luck kind of encompasses like all of the, I mean, it works perfectly here, but like the misfortunes of the season, like the juju drop that turns into, an interception, or like the tip pass in the Raiders game that turns into an interception. It's like, yeah, are those things part of the game of football? Yeah, of course. But that doesn't mean that all the time it's going to end like that. And, a defensive lineman is going to get his hand on a football and it turns into a pick. And
another great example of this is like for the opposition, like Marcus Mariota completing a pass to himself last week.
Yes. Oh my God.
Josh Allen kicked a ball on accident into it on purpose. He like drops the snap, kicks it for a first down, and a Bills player recovers it on third down. Like that's the type of stuff that happens to the Chiefs sometimes, right? Where we feel like cursed, even though we've been incredibly blessed here lately. But that sort of just weird variance.
Yeah, the Lamar Jackson pass is the one that immediately struck my mind, where he's leading his team in receiving yards and rushing yards and passing yards going into the half. Like, yeah, nobody had that on their bingo card. Yeah, insane. But it just has to be against the Chiefs, right? It can't be against anybody else. It's always KC. My next one, so number 4 on the list, complacency. And complacency is a thing that you can't really measure. It's something that you can maybe like, try and determine how much of it's actually happening on the team. But like, I just know, not necessarily for personal experience, but looking at teams that are as good as the Chiefs and even using the Chiefs in years past as like kind of a measuring tool here. It's like at some point in the season, like the Chiefs just seem to like coast, and that hasn't happened this year. It looks like it kind of based on like all the adversity that they faced as well, where it's like, hey, our receiving corps is the best Patrick Mahomes has seen in a long time. Oh, injury. Okay. And then another injury. And it's like, okay, well, we actually have to keep, the car rolling here. Defensively, it's the same exact thing. Charles Omenihu's not in. Mike Dana gets hurt. Our cornerback gets injured, Jalen Watson. It's like, okay, yeah, we have to still keep innovating. But we've played the toughest part of our schedule already, and we're going into a stretch where we play some teams that aren't necessarily as good as the rest of the league. And I have this like really, maybe it's just the Halloween vibes I've got, but like this kind of creeping feeling of like, oh, okay, it's the Chiefs. We've already made a bunch of dumb mistakes, or, we've had that bad misfortune. And now we're going into a stretch of the season where like, if we lose to the Bucs and then to the Broncos, I don't know, there's going to be chaos in Chiefs Kingdom. And it's not because we don't think, our team's not going to make the Super Bowl or whatever. But like, those are the types of losses where you look back and you're like, hey, the Chiefs had the 1 seed all locked up. Then I went on a 2-game losing streak against 2 of the worst teams in the league. And then, and it's not necessarily the complacency, but like just the matchup situations that are there. But it's one of those things that just, it seems to catch every football team, especially ones that, compete at a really high level at some point during the season. And it just seems like we haven't seen that yet. And if that's in the near future, that's pretty concerning.
I feel like the Raiders game last year was a good example of how like complacency really jumped up and bit them. And it like something we kind of forget about that too is we didn't think it was going to happen, but there was a chance that if they didn't go out and win that next game against the Bengals, that the AFC West could have come down to that final week against the Chargers. Not necessarily the Chargers winning it because they were out of it, but against the Raiders. So that complacency, I hopefully that is something that is out of their head now. One thing that I think will kind of help that is I don't think that they're going to have a perfect record, but chasing perfection, that might propel them well into the season. And then let's keep our eye on the bye week. So something to look at there. For me, number 4, wide receivers. I just think game against a team that can really cover with good defense, good pass rush. Do the Chiefs have the wide receivers to be able to get it done? Is 32-year-old DeAndre Hopkins, 28-year-old, 32-year-old knees, Juju Smith-Schuster, rookie Xavier Worthy with 165 pounds, and, whatever Hollywood Brown is when he comes back, which we don't really know when that is, and it's not a guarantee. Is that enough? And Kelsey, right? Like Kelsey's obviously on the wrong side of 30 as well. When I think back to the Chiefs getting their ass kicked in the 2020 Super Bowl, obviously the first thing I think of is the pass protection in that game and the offensive line injuries. But the next thing I think about that game is that the Bucks, they doubled Kelsey, they doubled Hill almost that entire game and dared McCole Hardman and Sammy Watkins to beat them and Demarcus Robinson, and they couldn't. Teams can take away your first and second options. So if Kelsey and Hopkins are shut down, what does that look like? So it'll be interesting to see how they overcome that and how those wide receivers overcome it. But I definitely think that, like, if we're sitting here and talking about postmortem, what went wrong, losing Rashee Rice, not getting a full year of Hollywood Brown, not getting what you necessarily wanted out of Xavier Worthy rookie year could all be contributing factors.
Oh, yeah. And that compounds when Mahomes is playing like how he's playing right now, where it's like, kind of like a car going into the shop. It's like, what's the real problem with the offense? It's like, yeah, it's a little bit of column A, but it's also, Mahomes not playing up to his standards. Still playing okay, but, you'd like to see some more things out of him. My next one is Drew Tranquill as one of my concerns for the team. Like last year when he came in, he was a breath of fresh air to an otherwise sort of dismal unit in the linebacking core. You had Nick Bolton, but he had kind of reached like what a lot of people thought was his ceiling. Willie Gay was playing pretty well, but I mean, you knew what he was. It's like he was a ball tracking linebacker who would come downhill and absolutely obliterate, anybody who dared to run outside zone against his side of the field. And then Leo Chanel, again, like a really good player. It's like still kind of finding his way of like being that, first and second down linebacker. But, not really being exactly what we needed out of that weak side linebacker. And then Drew Tranquill comes in and he's the coverage linebacker that we've always desired. He's fast. He's athletic. He takes away tight ends. He's very good against the run. And now it's like we have two Mike linebackers in our linebacking core on third down. And it's absolutely fantastic. We reap the benefits of it. Yada, yada, yada. We win a Super Bowl. And then we're to the point now where it's like during this season, he has not popped. He's had a few good games and he's played some pretty good snaps, but it's not like it was before. And I think when you have that second year of a player in your system, you expect them to take like another leap forward. And that it just seems like it isn't the case this year for Drew Tranquill. And I don't know what's causing it. I don't know what it could possibly be, but yeah, if Drew Tranquill doesn't, get on the right page and turn into that last year's self, like we might be in some trouble with the linebacking core.
I was a little bit more concerned about this a couple of weeks ago. I think he's turned it on of late. To that point, Drew Tranquill was PFF's highest graded Chief against the Raiders last week at 85.3. Not that that's everything, but it is one metric. And I think one thing that's helped him too is I think Nick Bolton's playing better too. We were pretty concerned about Nick Bolton the first couple of weeks. He looks a lot more in shape. And I don't mean that like he came in out of shape. I just think he didn't get a lot of training camp, and that's okay. But he looked a little rusty, I guess it should be the better term. I think he's playing better. I think that they're kind of working out some of the kinks there as well with what the shortcomings of not having Willie Gay and the defense is now. I'm not super worried about that. Like, of the concern I have, linebackers, it's always going to be a place that they're going to try to attack because it's just they're weaker coverage players, right? But I believe in Steve Spagnuolo being able to overcome some of the shortcomings there. Maybe that is where you say tight ends is a place, but really the only team that scares me with tight ends, I guess that's not true. Bills, Kincaid and Knox, Ravens, Andrews and Likely. I don't really worry about Dalton Schultz in Houston. And then if you get to the Super Bowl, like Laporte or Kittle. But I don't know. I think they can overcome it.
Oh, yeah, I'd agree as well.
Okay, my number 3, the corners. Everyone not named Trent McDuffie. I felt a lot better about this with Jalen Watson on the team. He's not here anymore. Probably not coming back at all. I know that we always actually say, well, he could come back for the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you want a guy's first game action in 3 to 4 months to be in the Super Bowl. Whenever, you need everyone to be on their absolute A game. And I think that there is some potential there that their corners are not going to allow them to do everything that they like. Part of the reason why the Chiefs defense was so good last year is because they had 2 set it and forget it, all pro caliber corners. And yes, we would love for L'Jarius Sneed to come back. That's not happening. And with Jalen Watson, it wasn't L'Jarius Sneed, but he was giving them really great production. And it allowed Trent McDuffie to be that shutdown guy and Watson to really do a great job of that. Also, Jalen Watson has been one of the more productive ball production corners they've had as far as passes defensed and interceptions. They don't have that anymore. And when, the dirty little secret about a blitz is, what is usually the coverage behind a blitz? Man, right? So if you're leaving corners on islands in man coverage, like whenever Jalen Watson was healthy, they had a true engage 8 blitz where they sent everyone no safeties, right? Just corners, man-to-man coverage. That's relying on guys like Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson to be able to run stride for the guy and cover them. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed in that game. Do you trust these guys to do that now? And when you get an elite quarterback like a Josh Allen or a CJ Stroud, are they going to pick on Najee Johnson? Are they going to pick on Joshua Williams in that instance? So we will see. That is one area that does concern me. Wouldn't be surprised if we're not talking about a cornerback addition before the end of Tuesday night's trade deadline.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the position that everybody's kind of penciling them in for. But I don't know, Joshua Williams, Dave Merritt, like surely this coaching staff and that player can get it together long enough to make a legitimate run at the Super Bowl and be at least somewhat productive in Watson's spot. So my number 2, Patrick Mahomes. I know we shouldn't be worried, but part of me is still a little bit worried. Not that he's, I'm not mad that he's not that 50 touchdown, 5,000 yard passer, but part of me is like, okay, I mean, we watched the game with DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins was open a lot, very, very open all the time. He's missing him on wide open plays. I understand he's just getting, ingratiated into the system, and Mahomes is just starting to build that trust barrier with him. We saw a miscue there early with between Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins, but part of me is also like, okay, well, he's one of the best receivers in the league, or at least he was at one point. Yeah, he knows where to be. Why are we trying to force it to Xavier Worthy on 50-50 balls? Like, I understand we're trying to make the kid feel good, and we're trying to expand his role a little bit, but like, let's be honest about the situation. Like, he's not going to be making those types of plays. Mahomes also seems just a little bit clunky back there as well. We talked about that. If it wasn't last week, it was the week before. And yeah, you just at some point expect him to like kind of round that corner into, at least being a little bit more productive and not making so many, I don't want to call them mistakes, because the interceptions that he has thrown haven't been like, oh my God, what are you doing? Except for maybe 1 or 2 of them. But there's still that part of it that's like, hey, we should be rounding a corner. The offense should be looking a little bit better than it is. Like, we have the best run game that we've had, and God knows how long. We should be scoring more points, being more productive. And if anybody can, get through that, it's Patrick Mahomes, but still, just waiting on that to happen at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have to disagree with you. I feel like of the list of concerns I have, Patrick Mahomes is very much towards the bottom of that. He has proven it in so many big games, in so many big moments. Do I think that he's not trying? No. But I think that there's another level to his performance and what he does in playoff games. He has consistently performed his best there. Look at last year. Last year was a slog for him throughout the whole season, and then was damn near perfect in the playoffs. So I have the utmost faith in him. The biggest concern I have is just like keeping him healthy and keeping him right. As long as he's got that and establishing chemistry and rapport with the players, the players in the offense, I'm very confident in his ability.
Oh, okay.
Okay. For me, number 2, left tackle. We have seen left tackle shut down this offense before. The Raiders' day on Christmas game is a great example of that. The sequence against the Raiders this previous week with Max Crosby, where basically a whole drive was killed just because of left tackle play. Trey Hendrickson shut down the Chiefs offense for about a quarter, just dominating Kingsley Suamataia. it's a concern. It's a concern for Patrick Mahomes' health. It's a concern for how viable the offense is. And you've gotten a pretty good version of Jawaan Taylor this season. If he's starting to struggle, if you're facing a team that has a Will Anderson and elite pass rushers on both sides, that can get really tough where you can't provide help to both guys. And they will find ways to exploit those two guys versus the interior. So that is one that if we're sitting here postmortem saying what went wrong, the tackle play is certainly one of the things I could see, particularly left tackle.
Oh yeah, and that's my number one is left tackle. Very, very much excited to see Kingsley Suamataia take over at some time. Wanya Morris has kind of proven he's kind of a middling guy. I know that's really tough to say going into his second year, but like we've kind of seen, at least I have seen everything I've needed to see from him. So why are we continuing to trot him out on the field and, put him in these situations where, he's up against Max Crosby? And like you said, Jawaan Taylor's been fantastic, but like we need to kind of solidify that left tackle position. I don't know if it's going to be in like trading for somebody like Evan Neal, or if it's going to be, signing one of these veteran left tackles that isn't playing ball right now. But it seems like something needs to happen with that position. We have to get that fixed. That's the number one concern by far. Yeah,
Donovan Smith, I don't know. I would feel better about
Still
that.
Available.
He is. There's got to be a reason. I'm not sure if he doesn't want to play football. I'm not sure if he's just like not being realistic about the price point. But I do wonder at one point, since he's not getting any other phone calls, do you just bring him in and maybe see if he's probably only coming back to play? But boy, I'd feel much better about him sitting on the bench as an option for this offense. But we'll see. I am still skeptical if that happens. My number one, it's the most obvious. It's the one that everyone's going to say. It's injuries. The Chiefs have already experienced a lot of injuries. I'm not sure how many more injuries, season-ending big injuries they can take. Just start naming some guys that can't get hurt. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. What about the interior of the offensive line? That's a huge strength of this offense and this run game right now. You lose one of those guys. What about Trent McDuffie? That'd be bad. Nick Bolton. You start thinking about how big of losses those guys can and would be. I'm not sure how many more they can take. They've had some pretty unfortunate injury luck, but this happens to teams sometimes. The Chiefs have done great at avoiding it through this dynasty, but it just might not be their year for that. And if that does happen, that's the easiest way for it to get derailed. We saw a couple of teams last year that their defense in the playoffs were just ravished with injuries. Both the Bills and the Dolphins were starting guys off the street at edge rusher and linebacker in those games. So it can happen. Hopefully it doesn't. I'm really hoping it doesn't, but that's the most obvious one. And it's one that we've already felt here in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we've already sustained so many. It's just like, man, how many more people can you take? Like we had this dynamic offense. Now, Patrick Mahomes lost all his toys.
Yeah, they're kind of like averaging one guy out for the season every week, it feels like right now. Jody Fortson he wasn't moving the needle, but he was playing snaps. For whatever reason, they felt that was necessary. He was playing snaps. He appears to be done for the season. Previous week, it's Jalen Watson. They've lost Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco for an extended period of time, Hollywood Brown, yada, yada, yada. Please make it stop. Amen. Okay, let's go a little bit more rapid fire on this one. Your NFC contenders, your top 5 NFC contenders, just give them to me 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5 Commanders, 4 Eagles, 3 Falcons, 2 Packers, 1 Lions. And I think those are pretty self-explanatory. Lions are incredible this year.
So I wanted to put the Lions higher or the Packers higher than I did. I made this before I saw that Jordan Love might play this week. I've been pretty concerned about his injury just because I think back to 2019 when Mahomes fought that sprained ankle for the better part of half the season until he actually, honestly, one of the weirdest things is when Mahomes injured his knee in Denver, I think it was low key kind of good that he also got time off of his ankle. Because if you remember, he sprained his ankle in the Jaguars game. And it really bothered him for quite some time. That Colts game was one of the first games that Mahomes really didn't play well that week that they lost to Jacoby Brissett-led Colts. And part of it was because Mahomes was just really gimpy on his ankle. a foreshadowing of what would come in an AFC Championship game. But okay, so read it. Your 5 was who?
Commanders, Eagles, Falcons, Packers, Lions.
You love the Falcons. You were such a Falcons supporter. Okay, my 5 is the 49ers. I think like we know that they don't have Ayuk
this year. Hold on.
Yes,
you're looking at okay. All right. You know, Christian McCaffrey has no ankles anymore, right?
He's supposed to come back after the bye, is what they're saying. So you get him back. I think that I've liked some of what I've seen from Pearsall. They're going to get Juwan Jennings back in. Kittle's playing well. Yada, yada, yada. They've done it before. They're going to get Greenlaw back at some point. I like what I've seen for Malik Mustafa. So 49ers at 5, pedigree, Kyle Shanahan. I think Brock Purdy's playing better than I think he gets credit for. I have the Packers at 4. I wanted to put them higher. The injury held me back. 3, I have the Vikings. There's just so much talent on that team, especially whenever you factor in that what they're doing right now without TJ Hawkinson, who is a really good player, another element they can add to the offense. I do think that like the don't look at the man behind the curtain from the Wizard of Oz happens at some point, and we find out that Sam Darnold isn't, magically elite, but for the most part, and they made a move at left tackle. I think that at least makes them decent at left tackle. It's not Darisaw. The defense, I think the scheme will continue to really elevate the talent. Number 2, I have the Eagles. I really liked what I saw from the Eagles this week. It's the best that Jalen Hurts has looked probably since that Super Bowl. And what they can do with Saquon Barkley in the run game. And by the way, they don't have one of the better left tackles in football right now. Mailata is out. The defense is the thing that's really taking a step forward. They're starting to get stuff out of Quinyon Mitchell. They're starting to get stuff out of Cooper DeJean. Those picks are coming home. Jalen Carter is obviously a really good interior pass rusher. Nakobe Dean, they're using a little bit better. So I like what I'm seeing there. And then, yes, the Lions are a house. And I think they're scary just because they have so many different ways that they can beat you on offense that it feels like, man, can any defense really hold them down because they just have so many different ways to beat you.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, they just have it seems like they can beat with Jamison Williams. They can beat you with Sam Laporta if they need to. Jahmyr Gibbs looks as good as he's ever been. He looks like, I don't want to say Jamal Charles, but like he's in that kind of shifty sort of top 5 if we could put him there. But David Montgomery, they've got everybody. And Jared Goff is playing like damn near perfect football. He had a stat line the other day that was like 3 touchdowns on 10 passes.
As someone who owns both Sam Laporta and David Montgomery, let me tell you, there's no better player in fantasy than David Montgomery throwing a touchdown pass to Sam Laporta. That was like a 18-point play for me. Absolutely. Like that's literally like, oh, that play, you just won your matchup. And I also think like they scare you because despite Dan Campbell being an absolute meathead, he does the small things right. He goes for it on the right 4th downs. He does the things that make your opponents go like, oh, no, don't do that, please. So he's one that like you get him in a Super Bowl. I could see him going for it a lot and making it really hard. And again, I constantly think the best way to judge football moves is what does your opponent want you to do? If, your opponent goes, okay, good, they're going to kick the field goal here. You might be doing something wrong. So Dan Campbell's a dude. All right, let's head over to the AFC. A little bit more probably chalky, I would assume. Well, let me give you my top 5 AFC contenders. At 5, I have the Steelers. At 4, I have the Texans. At 3, I have the Ravens. At 2, I have the Bills. And then I have your Kansas City Chiefs at 1.
That's kind of wild to put the Bills that high. I have Steelers, Bills, then Texans, Ravens, and Chiefs. Bills, I just think they're missing a little bit still. Like the Amari Cooper edition, the Amari Cooper edition has not been at least what they thought it was going to be this early. Again, he's only played 1 game.
2.
Two, excuse me. So if you're judging him off the DeAndre Hopkins, if we're judging them both together, it doesn't look like either one has done so much. But he's dealing with some injuries as well. I just have questions. The Texans lost both their wide receivers. Stephon Diggs actually just came out today with the torn, ACL.
Yep.
Nico Collins is on IR. I don't know if Tank Dell and John Mechie can carry the Texans offense like those other 2 wide receivers, but stranger things have happened, I guess. CJ Stroud's a good player. Ravens are just fantastic too. Like if they're outside anybody's top 3, you're kind of looking at them a little side-eyed. Lamar Jackson's playing fantastic. He didn't practice today. Did you see that with 2 knee injuries? Is that what it was?
I thought I saw back, but it was described by Harbaugh as just kind of a rest day. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Nothing major, but
he finished the game last week.
Yeah.
So my thing with the Ravens is that's an objectively bad defense. There's no if and or's about it. It's a bad defense. The Bills defense is better. Is the Bills offense as good as the Ravens offense? No, I don't think so. I think the Ravens have the potential, especially with the addition of Deontay Johnson, to be the best offense in the NFL, or right there with the Lions. However, the Bills offense is not as far away as the Ravens defense is from the Bills defense. Like the Bills defense is solid. And also there's one guy of those 2 guys, who do I trust more in 4th and 16 with the game on the line? And you've got to pass the ball. And that's Josh Allen. Josh Allen can do 90% of what Lamar Jackson can as a runner and do 120% what he can do as a thrower. And I like Lamar Jackson, the thrower. I think he's progressed there. Going down just the list a little bit, I think what the Steelers are doing right now is kind of legit. And I think it's because that defense is real. I think the pass rush, and as long as they can keep Highsmith and Hayward and Watt all healthy, what they've got in the back end there is real. And I think the run game has been better this year. That was part of the reason why the Steelers have kind of not been themselves and been great these last couple of years, is they leaned into this really heavy run game and it sucked. They're doing a lot better job of using like gap schemes for Najee Harris, and he looks a little bit better instead of trying to run this outside zone stuff. And then they're mixing in Warren. And I think they're finding some good roles for their guys. And I think Russell Wilson, I don't think that he's going to be this the rest of the year. But to me, they're a team that you get them in a playoff game, they're going to make you earn it. And it was either them or the Bengals I was going to put here, honestly. I couldn't in good faith put the Broncos or the Chargers. The thing that held me back with the Bengals is the same thing about the Ravens, like objectively bad defense. And every time we've seen this offense go without having Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, it regresses. When they have both guys, it's truly one of the best. But if it's that fragile, it makes me wonder just like, what can they do game after game? And are they even going to be there? I tend to think that they still make the playoffs, but it's not going to be easy for sure.
Oh, yeah. And the only reason that is because the AFC is so wide open. Like, and to your point about the Steelers, it helps when you have a quarterback that can throw across the middle of the field and be a little bit more accurate on the outside with guys like George Pickens. Like, George Pickens is, man, if I was in that locker room, if I'm George Pickens, like I'm shaking Russell Wilson's hand every single day after the game, because it's like, yes, thank you. You can throw me the ball. Okay, I can be a number 1 wide receiver again, of course. I don't know how good they're going to be in the playoffs, but, they're a fun team.
I think if they get in a game in the Arrowhead, the Chiefs shut down that run game and they make Russell Wilson beat them, and they've got the book on Russell Wilson from playing him several days a week. And I think they probably score 14 points on some moon balls that are just kind of low percentage passes that end up working to guys like George Pickens, and the Chiefs are able to just get enough done on offense that they kind of score out a gritty 24-14 win. Like, that's just how it kind of feels to me.
Yep.
But, with guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith against the tackles, we talked about that being a concern. So it's very real. Let's go back to the Chiefs here for a minute. This is a fun category. I feel like there's a lot of same answers here from you and me, but let's go through our top 5 Chiefs of all time. And I left this open to you in case you wanted to put non-players. I stuck with just players.
Yeah, I did as well.
For me, the reason why I stuck with players is because it's really hard to put people like, if you start doing non-players, well, like you got to put Lamar Hunt in there. Then you got to consider putting Clark Hunt in there. You probably should put Andy Reid in there. And, it gets really full fast. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm leaving off like some really great players for this franchise. So go through your 5 through 1 for me.
All right. And this is an opinionated podcast. Bobby Bell, my number 5. Priest Holmes, number 4. Oh. Derek Thomas, number 3. Tony Gonzalez, number 2. And Eric Berry, number 1. All-time favorite Chief, Eric Berry. No question.
So these are your favorites, or who you think are the greatest of all time?
All-time Chiefs, like my all-time top 5. If I'm building the Chiefs,
I went more objective. Like I went like.
So you have Patrick Mahomes is 1.
Yes, I have the 3-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time MVP, winningest like player, and like the savior of our franchise is number 1.
Okay.
Amen.
Well, okay. I just felt that was too chalky.
I don't think the way you did it is wrong. I just don't think it's right.
Okay, I was gonna say, sensing a lot of judgment through the screen here, but no big deal.
You've got Eric Berry number 1, my guy. I like Eric Berry. He
beat cancer and came back and played football, dude. What else do you want from him
on the team like the last year?
Okay, well, he had heel spurs or whatever.
Yeah, he had a velociraptor thing out of his back toe or whatever. Okay, so here's my 5 through 1, the objectively right list. Number 5, one of the greatest career Chiefs ever. Also, I put him on this list because of some of the philanthropy things that he did. A Walter Payton Man of the Year. It's Will Shields, the guard, Hall of Famer on the All Decades team, 2-time All Pro. Number 4, I have one of the quarterbacks that brought home a Super Bowl to this team. Also famous for some of the things he did off the field as far as a broadcaster. It's Lynn Dawson, an icon of this franchise that I'll never really understand because I wasn't alive. But I hear great things, and I know the impact that he had, and it's very obvious that it was great on this team. And then number 3, this is where I bow to just kind of contemporariness. Number 3, I have Chris Jones, one of the main pillars of the dynasty that is the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Will likely finish 2nd or 3rd all time on sacks on the team, and in team history, hopefully a career Chief. He's certainly got the contract for it. Number 2, I have the greatest tight end in Chiefs history, Travis Kelce. Again, a pillar, hopefully a 4-time Super Bowl champion, and a guy who was here through some of the best years of this team. And then number 1, Patrick Mahomes. No notes. No explanation.
I'm just saying, my team has better stories. We've got better character. You guys have all the stats and all that, whatever.
I'm personally a huge fan of the story of they went to 5 Super Bowls and won 4. But
that's a fun story for us.
The cancer's fun too, though.
No, I'm talking about the fight of the human spirit, and it transcends the game. Okay, some things are more important than football. Price.
High ankle sprains in playoff games are basically cancer. Okay. Please don't put that on a quote. Please don't put that on a TikTok.
Yeah, Richard, clip that, please.
Okay. Rapid fire, because I think this one's for you and me. Your top 5 draft wide receivers, 2025 draft prospects.
All right, draft prospect. Okay, draft wide receivers.
Yes,
right?
Wide receiver draft prospects.
Okay, all right. Want to make sure I don't interpret this one wrong too. Isaiah Bond, the speedster. I always mispronounce this guy's name. From Ohio State, Arizona, excuse me.
Teteroa McMillan.
Yes. Say it for them so they know what it is.
Teteroa McMillan.
Emeka Egbuka.
Correct.
From Ohio State, the wide receiver. Luther Burden from Mizzou Fighting Tigers. And then Travis Hunter is my number 1 wide receiver.
I keep forgetting, I just have the thing where I just don't think of Travis Hunter because I just he's a corner. Oh, he's a wide receiver. So I left him off my list, probably incorrectly. Number 5, I have Trey Harris from Ole Miss, the Yak Machine. He missed a game last week and he still leads FBS in yards and touchdowns. Big bodied guy, can run out of the slot. Number 4, I have Emeka Egbuka, the complete polished slot Yak Machine from the Ohio State University. Number 3, I have Isaiah Bond, the Texas wide receiver. Number 2, I have Luther Burden, a.k.a. Mr. Mizzou Made. And number 1, I have Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, big-bodied guy, kind of Mike Evans-esque. Boy, Luther Burden is kind of falling down the boards with the Brady Cook stuff and him just having a down year. I read a mock from Kyle Krabs, who's a great content creator on the draft, worked for the 33rd team. I recommend you listen to his stuff. He had him going at, I think, 18 to the Cardinals. The Cardinals get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Luther Burden with Kyler Murray. My goodness.
Oh, that'd be fun to see.
That would be fun to see, but that can't happen.
No. He's got to come home. We took K. we got to keep him in Missouri, dude. We need another wide receiver too.
Did the Rams move back to Missouri? I don't think he's staying there that long. Okay. All right. Draft content. Let's go to okay. I love this category. Patrick Mahomes moments. So just to clarify for you, Christian, these are some of the best moments in Patrick Mahomes' career. Just in case you might have interpreted it different, I don't know how.
My number 5 is he built a golf course in his backyard, dude. Like, that's a pretty cool moment. No, number 5, left-handed pass against the Broncos, week 17, 2017. Fourth quarter, 1:44 left on the clock. Game is tied 2020 or 24-24, and KC is on the 22. This is like, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. This is like where they do foreshadowing in a movie, and this is kind of next level analysis, Price. So make sure to follow along. It's where they give you a preview of what's about to happen in the movie, and it's like just a little something, little sparkle in the movie where if you're watching really closely, you
Remind
see
me
it.
again what subject you teach. What subject you teach again?
History.
Yeah, don't go trying to one-up me on literary devices, my guy.
Okay, all right. Well,
I understand what foreshadowing is. I'm about the onomatopoeia your ass. Okay, continue.
If I knew the actual definition of onomatopoeia, I might clap back. But
they're words like that make the sound that they are. Like,
okay, Price.
Damn,
this is Mahomes' moments.
Okay,
this is not
Mahomes' career is
101. Okay, but yes, this is the left-handed pass to drive down the field to go and score and win the football game. I understand it's in a meaningless game against the Broncos, but like, this is where you see when you look back, you're like, oh yeah, I saw it. This is like where your grandpa will go back. He's like, oh, I knew from that first game he played as a Chief, he was going to be a superstar. It's like, that's what it was. It's like left. So like some circus pass, get a first down, keep the drive moving. The incredible play. I left Jet Chip Wasp off of the list for this play specifically. So it does hold that much meaning in my heart.
I think we probably both have a Mahomes like welcome to the show party, like he's arrived. I'm here moment, right? Like, so definitely. Okay. My 5. Mine is this. My number 5 is him throwing 6 touchdown against the Steelers week 2. The Steelers used to be the Chiefs' boogeyman. I felt like we could never beat this team. Alex Smith, I still don't know if he ever actually did beat the Steelers. If so, it was a meaningless game because every time the game mattered, he did not win. He goes out and outduels Ben Roethlisberger with Antonio Brown. That's like when that offense was up and going with Le'Veon Bell. Man, I don't know. Le'Veon Bell, that might have been the year he set out. But either way, 6 touchdown passes. Like, I didn't even know that was possible for a quarterback to do that in a second week after a huge week against Los Angeles. I know a lot of people's moments where they like love at first sight. Patrick Mahomes is him. Was that pass against San Francisco to Chris Conley in the back of the end zone? But for me, it was that Pittsburgh game. That was the game my dad called me. And my dad doesn't really pay attention to football a lot, and he knows I do. And he calls me and goes, so what's up with the quarterback? And I was like, the quarterback? What do you mean, Dad? And he's, well, the Chiefs, they got a quarterback who's doing really good, right? And I was like, you mean Patrick LaVon Mahomes, Dad? Let me tell you. So that was the moment. Like, that, to me, I'll never forget watching that game and just like, it's happening. It's happening. It's the GIF. It's the, like, what is that? The Bernie Sanders meme where he's like, it's happening.
Oh, yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, dude. So my next one is the Super Bowl run against the Eagles, where it's tied 35-35, 2:55 left in the game. Mahomes makes the 26-yard run while he's injured, and you're just watching it, and you know it's coming, and it's everybody in the entire stadium knows what the next play is going to be. It's going to be a Patrick Mahomes scramble, but how? He's injured. He's going to do it anyway, and it's going to look incredible, and he's going to set him up for the game-winning field goal, game-winning touchdown, and it's just absolute poetry in motion. Fantastic play. Absolutely incredible to watch. And again, this is like the Super Bowl that they come back to. This is Super Bowl. This is the second Super Bowl after we, won the one in San Francisco so long ago, or excuse me. Second one of the, no. That's correct. Yeah. It's the one we win the Super Bowl against San Francisco, lose to the Bucs, miss it again, and then go to the Super Bowl for the Eagles. And it's like, we're back, baby. We got it. The team looks a little different, but we still got it. And yeah, dude, incredible play.
Editorial remark, the GIF is Ron Paul, not Bernie Sanders. I knew it wasn't Bernie Sanders whenever it left my mouth. I just didn't know who it was. It's happening.
They're both old white guys, dude. Nobody was going to call
He's
you on
that. He's a politician. That's the only type we got, unfortunately. Okay. End of politics. My number 4, and that's a great moment, by the way. I contend my weird take is that the Super Bowl, the second Super Bowl, the one against the Eagles, the one that was won, that one means more to me than the last one that just happened against the 49ers, and partially because I thought that Eagles team was better than the 49ers were last year. And also I felt you had the one that was kind of rookie contract, classic Super Bowl that's won by a team. Then they lose, and it feels okay, he's just never going to be able to shake the Brady allegations. Then they don't make it. But to come back and win that one with the injury, with the high scoring affair that it was, and it just fermented that he did it without Tyreek Hill, that this was the beginning of something, not the end of it. You know what I mean? And that proved to be true. So, and plus it was just a fantastic game. And like I said, I feel like that was a great team that they played. Mm-hmm. My number 4 is coming back from 24-0 against the Texans. 24-0. Dude, that was one of the lowest moments in my Chiefs fandom, because we thought it was all possible with Patrick Mahomes, and he comes back from the injury that year, and it feels like a team that was heating up at the right time. The defense started playing really well, and that just felt like a classic Chiefs choke. Arrowhead was a place filled with heartbreak and sorrow in the playoffs until 15 showed up. The greatest Chief of all time, Christian, not Eric Berry. And when Patrick Mahomes showed up, they faced that, right? In 2018, they lose to the Patriots in kind of a cursed way with Dee Ford offsides. And he's looking down the barrel of 24-0 against a good quarterback at the time in Deshaun Watson. And they did not blink. And they hit the thing that always jumps out to me about that game is they hit, I can't remember what came first. It was either a really big McCole Hardman kick return or the wheel route to Damian Williams to score the first touchdown. But I remember the crowd and the players were just going nuts. And I was like, my guys, you're down 24-7. Let's take a breath. But I realized they still believed, and that is the Lisan Agaib. That is the prince who was promised, the one who delivered us, right? And they believed. And when you had Patrick Mahomes there, Travis Kelce gets 3 touchdowns and all these off-script things. Justin Reed seeing ghost facing Travis Kelce. That game to me was just this is the one who was promised. This he broke the curse, the breaker of chains. It's biblical.
Moses, Khaleesi.
Yeah, dude, seriously, it is those things. It is the prophecy, the fulfilling the promised one. So that to me is just such a huge moment.
That's my number 1, and it's my number 1 for a few different reasons. But that was one of 2 games that I went to with my father to go see. He somehow got tickets to the AFC Championship game the year before, where Eric Berry gets the interception and whatever. But I guess he's too busy fighting off cancer, not showing up, and then the actual Super Bowl runs for it to matter to you. But
wait, your dad or Eric Berry? Is your dad okay?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
Eric Berry.
Is your dad's ankle good too? Does he got the velociraptor thing?
He hobbles a little bit, but he's old, man. What do you expect? No, okay. So yeah, this is so we're standing up there, we're in the stands, and we're watching the game play, and it's mistake after mistake after blown coverage after awful special teams play after special teams play. And it's oh man, this is for the longest time, if you're a Chiefs fan for a long time, it's every single year in the playoffs, we just fold and we just can't make it over the hump. And this was supposed to be different. And last year it was because Brady cheated. It wasn't because we legitimately lost. He got that phantom roughing the passer call where Chris Jones slaps him on the shoulder pad, and it's not a huge deal. And then Patrick Mahomes, this is the 5-yard touchdown throw to Kelce to bring it back, to go up. It was 21-24 with 50 seconds left in the first half. And the entire time I'm standing next to some dude we barely know, a little bit hammered. And we're saying, if they can go down and score here, maybe score one more time, then they're only down 2 touchdowns before the half. Then I get up and go to the bathroom, and then I come back and it's oh, we have the ball again? Okay, cool. Now it's 14. Okay, all right, cool. And then we're moving along. And then Patrick Mahomes throws that touchdown to Travis Kelce, and we're up with 43 seconds left to go in the first half. And you're like, oh no, this is different. Like Patrick Mahomes was just a young man last year. Now he's gone through the cocoon phase. He's turned into this beautiful butterfly in front of us. And we're going to win this playoff game. And maybe we'll win a Super Bowl. Like it's possible. Anything's possible now with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And it just felt like this moment of like, I can't even describe it. It's like a transcendent thing that occurred where all these Chiefs fans are together and we finally experience this moment of like, oh my God, it's happening. And I cannot describe it. I'm sure once I have kids, it'll change, but that is by far like the greatest moment that I remember as like a collective group of people just experiencing one thing at the same time.
I was okay with the Dune references and the Bible and the Game of Thrones references, but the butterflies where I draw the line. Okay. It's getting a little weird. All right. We can compare him to like the savior of humanity, but the butterfly.
Yeah, butterfly. Yeah, that's a little too.
I don't know. It's just, he doesn't fit. Okay. My number 3 is Jet Chip Wasp. Obvious reasons. Again, another kind of curse breaking moment, a play that only he could make in a moment where like he kind of helped make the play call, where he's suggesting it to Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, and the fact that they make that play, right? And that just kind of, they were down 10-0, and that's kind of created this mentality, the 24-0, the down 2010, this never down, never out, no margin too big, and taking like the 22-step drop that he did and launching that arm punt down the field. It just felt like, you know, the beginning, again, the start of something, right? And the hardest thing about building a dynasty is winning the first one. And then it's the second one, and then it's the third one. But they had to get the first one. And in that moment, he was able to do it. So Jet Chip Wasp, great play, great memory. I probably once every 6 months go back and watch the NFL Films story about that, where they kind of like go back and reference how they've used that play before, and they use the mic'd up content stuff, just peak video editing skills there. But yes, Jet Chip Wasp is my other.
Yeah, and a fantastic choice as well. That was one where Skip Bayless came on the air like the very next day and was like, oh, it was a punt. And, you know, there was kind of some backlash to it, but it was like one of the most beautiful plays in the history of the Chiefs franchise. So my number 3 was being down 17-20 in the first Super Bowl against the 49ers. Mahomes throws it to Sammy Watkins, who beats Richard Sherman, one of the greatest coverage corners, deep third coverage corners of all time, on an inside release. And it's 28-yard play, and we get to the red zone. Again, we're only down 3 points. It's in the Super Bowl. We have to score. And Sammy Watkins, who one of my favorite Chiefs wide receivers of all time, makes the play. And you're like, we're still in it. Again, this is fresh off of like the Titans victory where we're down, and the Texans victory where we're down. And we're down in the Super Bowl. It just seems like destiny is happening. And then we, get that first down and go on to win the game, man. Like one of the most beautiful wide receiver plays that I watched in the Super Bowl. And as wide receiver coach, that holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that was one of those that like you realize Sammy Watkins was an overpay, but that moment it was worth it. That and the AFC Championship game against the Sammy Watkins for the touch. Like those were the 2 or 3 moments that he was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Like they were just too deep. They were too talented. Yep. That made that offense just unlimited. Okay, number 2. For me, I just kind of chose a game here, winning the AFC Championship game on a high ankle sprain against the Bengals, the team that had plagued them. I don't know if I've ever had quite the dopamine hit that I had watching Aaron Ladd. May he rest in peace. He's still alive. He just went to Atlanta, which is kind of like dying. Interviewing Patrick Mahomes Sr., smoking on to Joe Burrow. I mean, that night was peak Chiefs fandom. And for Mahomes to do it on a high ankle sprain, playing through that, gutting through it, the way that they won that game, fighting through it in a game where at the end, like I remember someone had an all-time tweet that was like, Patrick Mahomes isn't always going to have Marcus Kemp, Sky Moore, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like he can't keep doing it with these weapons. Like, because that's who he had at the end of this game on a high ankle sprain. Like he's not going to always have those guys, stuff of legends. And they beat the boogeyman there, and they haven't lost to him since, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic game. My number two, I already gave you my number one with the Texans divisional round game, but my number two is that 25-yard pass to Travis Kelce to set up the 13-second victory over the Bills.
I really thought about that one.
Dude, it was so good. And you see him come over. It's like the perfect combination of like high football IQ and just like being the best at the game. They go over, talk about, hey, what are we going to do when we got the timeout? And like, if he plays outside, I'm going to run it up the seam and we'll get it. And it's just like the perfect combination of Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, the most elite players on the most elite team, probably the best at their positions all time in this all-time duo. And they get it. And it's like at the 8-second mark. It's not even at the 13 seconds. They ran a play before that. And so there's 8 seconds left, put us into field goal range. Harrison Butker pumps it in. And then we have, that's it. That's all she wrote. We have the overtime, and you just knew it was a foregone conclusion. It's like if Chiefs gets a ball, it's over. And
the Josh Allen legacy game, right?
Yes.
Even though Patrick Mahomes won that game, as Nick Wright so astutely points out, Josh Allen gets more credit in that game, even though he lost it. So, but hey, it's whatever, media championships, hang the banner. Okay. My number one, we've already mentioned it. It's the Super Bowl winning drive in 58. The franchise that the Chiefs put out, their production company puts out, where they set it to Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project, which is a song that the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Bulls came out to throughout their dynasty. That was the moment that, like, okay, 2 Super Bowls, there's several quarterbacks that have that third one, to get it with this group, to do it in this moment, unquestioned, in overtime. Every person knew in the building that they were going down and scoring a touchdown. And that was that's one that you can't even, there are some naysayers. All of them are from the Boston area code, newsflash, who refuse to admit his greatness, but nobody. After the Eagles game, after the Eagles Super Bowl, there were people who were still debating what his spot in history was and that type of stuff. But now, after that moment, after that game, the way it was won, it's pretty much consensus. He's 2. He's either 2 or 3. And that's a good place to be at age 28. Okay, let's do a couple quick hitters here. We were going to talk trade candidates real quick. Just give me your favorite one on your list.
My favorite one? I don't know if I can break it down to favorite. I have 2 that I really like.
A name.
Myles Garrett or JC Horn. Myles Garrett is like the please dear God let it happen, and then the JC Horn is like the realistic, Yeah,
I had JC Horn on my list too. Top 10 pick, has dealt with some injuries. Long guy. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. He would be affordable. He's going to be here through the end of 2025. Plays the run defense well. He's a guy that makes some sense. You already mentioned my game, which is weird, my guy, because I did not share my list with you, but Evan Neal was one of the guys I had. He can't find the field against on the Giants right now. Long tackle from Alabama, has had a hell of a time in the Giants. Keep in mind, this is like this would be an investment, a long-term investment. I'm not sure he's coming in and helping you this year, but send a late day 2 pick, early day 3 pick over to there to bring him in to try to reinvest in the talent. He has the frame, he has the ability, but for some reason it has not worked for him. Part of it is he's been playing almost right tackle exclusively for them because of their left tackle that's established but is injured. But even now, he's still not finding the field. He's had some pretty bad moments. He had this moment where I can't remember, the fans were booing him or something like that. And he said something along the lines of like, why does the lion consider the opinions of a sheep? Some pretty bad moments. And keep in mind, this is in the New York market, but they've done this with Kadarius Toney before, who's kind of a similar personality. You bet on the talent, hope it works. And then I put Demarcus Robinson in here. I think dude, he's balling out.
Right. Yeah, let him ball out in LA.
I don't think they're going to trade him because I think that they're playing pretty well. But all right, let's do some non-football here. Let's do some quick hitters. So Halloween was yesterday. Top 5 scary movies. Your favorite scary movies. I'm a connoisseur of scary movies. So let me give you mine first because I I probably watch every scary movie that comes out in theaters unless there's like garbage. I've got a pretty good barometer on those sort of things. Number 5, I have The Shining. Great, holds up all throughout this time. A classic. I even like some of the spinoff movie that they made of it. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it was very good as well. Just there's so many great cinematography moments in that movie too that really just like stir. I'm of the opinion that good horror movies, they make you feel things. Jump scares, that's a good way of horror. Another form of horror is like the slasher films, the gore, those type of things. And then, of course, there's just pure terror of like, okay, I want to check the closet again before I go to bed. But The Shining, there's some real moments of unsettlingness in there. Number 4, for what it did for the franchise, for the type of movie, I have The Blair Witch Project. The first mockumentary of its time, groundbreaking. This movie was terrifying people. And the thing that I love, Allison and I, my wife, Allison, we have a rule. If a horror movie shows the scary thing in the trailer, it can't be good. Because good movies, they make you wait. You never see the thing in The Blair Witch Project. And that's okay. It's fantastic. And that laid the way for movies like Paranormal Activity and some other great mockumentary horror films. Number 3, I have one that's just like pure, good, unadulterated horror. The Strangers. Bad people trying to kill you. They just come to the house. It's well done. I'm not talking about those remakes that are garbage. I'm talking about the Liv Tyler one. No explanation needed, right? They don't go into the backstory. No origin story. It's just like, hey, these people are here and they're trying to kill you for just existing. Fantastic. Well done. Some all-time shots in that movie. Love The Strangers. This is where I put my pinky up. I'm kind of hoity-toity with these things. Number 2, I have The Witch. Full disclosure, if you watch The Witch, you need to watch this movie on subtitles because they talk with old English accents. It's incredibly hard to understand. But this movie is such a slow burn, and the acting is phenomenal in it. And it's really dark. It's really deep. I love it. And then number 1 for me is the best execution of a classic horror story, a demonic possession with a nice twist on it. I love Ari Aster, the director. I love Hereditary, which is another one of, or Midsummer, which is another one of his horror films. I just buried the lead there. Hereditary is my number 1. Just a super highly well executed horror film. And I've got some weird ones in there that I like too, that I kind of left off the list that are a little more niche. But like, if you say like, hey, I want to show someone a really good horror movie, show them Hereditary.
Yeah, one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
And the thing that I love about Hereditary too is it makes you feel grief. Grief is one of the primary fear factors in that movie. Whenever the daughter dies, spoilers for a movie that came out like 10 years ago, but when the daughter dies and stuff, like you feel the pain that they feel in that movie. And it's part of the scariness of the movie. It's part of the intangibles, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? You've been getting good with like the ad read transitions. You're getting even better with the name, man. Congratulations, for real. Lots of good ones on there. Almost put The Conjuring on, or almost put. What's the first one that you said? I'm blanking on the name.
The Shining.
The Shining. Yep. Yeah, almost put The Shining on. My number 5 is The Lighthouse. It's kind of a recent movie, 2019, with Willem Dafoe.
Okay, I wasn't
more
familiar
of a
with your game.
psychological thriller than it is like. Yep. Than it is a legitimate horror. It's got established actors, Robert Pattinson, new Batman, Willem Dafoe, all-time great. So they're maintaining a lighthouse, and it's based off of a true story where people who were maintaining the lighthouse go missing, and there's no idea where they went. Left their coats, bad rainstorm, all the makings of a good horror movie. My number 4 is The Thing. From 1982. This is a movie that was on my list. I watched it growing up, which I don't know if it was the best for my, psychological development, but it was a fantastic movie. It's got Kurt Russell in it. It's like another really established actor. This is where they're like, yeah. This is like when they're in Antarctica and this, creature shows up as a dog and it can change into this alien sort of creature that goes around hunting everybody. Really good. Probably my favorite one on this list, but I don't know if it's the greatest horror movie of all time. Signs, 2002.
Oh my gosh, I love you for this. I love you for this movie. Why did it all traumatize us? Why did every millennial the internet is horrible for so many things. But one of the things the internet's the best at is being able to just be like, oh my God, there's others of us out there. And the fact that all of us were traumatized by that little Mexican boy being like, behind, and the alien comes through it's terrifying. And I grew up in the country, so like cornfields, I could see them from my window. Yep. So like, dude, I don't know why that movie disturbed an entire generation of children. I still watch it at least once or twice a year, and it's just got a great meaning to it, right? Like, do things in life happen for a reason, yes or no? And it carries it throughout the storyline. Thank you for this. I wanted to put on my list, but it's one of those that like, I don't know. I just felt like I couldn't put it on there for certain reasons, but thank you.
Well, dude, it's so good. And they do that Jaws thing where like they don't show what is actually scaring you, and you're like, it's all mental for like the first 3/4 of the movie, and you're like, oh my, I mean, we know it's crop circles, there's aliens, like we get slow like further. I don't
know about you, but when I was a kid, I thought crop circles were a top like 3 or 4 problem in my life. Like I was like John Mulaney has a bit about this, that like quicksand he thought was going to be a huge problem.
Oh yes, oh my God.
Like crop circles, like we really got to get to the bottom of this, guys. Like what is going on? And it just hasn't been an issue in my life. Thank God. I've got many others, but yeah, like crop circles, that really concerned me as a kid.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Well, and I grew up in like a rural neighborhood as well. So like literally drive 3 miles from my childhood home, cornfield after cornfield after cornfield. Went out to my grandparents' house. They have a cornfield. It's like, oh my God, I'm in prime location for this to happen to me in the near future. My next movie is 2017's The Ritual. Netflix special. I put it on there because I just enjoy rewatching it. It's these hikers, kind of again like a psychological thriller. Nothing extremely scary happens in the movie, but it's very much like sort of this grief ridden movie where you just kind of feel for all the characters, and there's resentment that grows between everybody, and then it kind of really shows these people's true colors as they, try to bond as a friend group over the death of one of their best friends.
Ritual is an all-time, like, for me, like, I just like was scrolling through Netflix, picked it, and like, oh, hey, that was actually a good movie.
Yes.
That rarely happens. So like, I hold that movie in high regard for that reason.
My friend recommended it, and I was like, oh, okay, a horror movie from somebody I barely know. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. It's like, oh my God. Wow. Okay. All right. Like it's well shot. Good scares, like perfect. Number one, The Conjuring, 2013. It's got Patrick Wilson in it. I saw this movie in theaters with one of my buddies, and there's a scene where this sheet flies off of the curtain, the line out in the yard, and hits an invisible figure, flies up to the window of the house, and then falls down, and then there's somebody standing in the window. It's like the perfect, like just as a B-roll shot almost. And that scared my friend so bad he ripped the bolts out of the floor on his seat in the movie theater, jolting back as hard as he possibly could. So that part holds like a special place in my heart, with the memory of my buddy absolutely destroying public property or private property. But also it's like there are so many like little scares in it where, when you're, man, I don't even know how old I was, like a 15-year-old kid.
There's like a great moment with the bed sheets where she's like hanging up the bed sheets, and one of the sheets flies off the line, and it like falls in the way that like it's a body, like someone's standing there. Yeah. It's great. Lots of good, like really good pan shots in that. A little bit of humor in it too, right? Like the guys who are coming in. I think that one, that reminds me of like kind of like what I was talking about with Hereditary, which is just a really classic horror film idea executed at a high level.
Yeah.
It's a great one. Well, and they've made some pretty good movies off of it too. Like some of the other movies have been good.
I refuse to watch any of them. I've seen The Conjuring. I will not watch Annabelle. I will not watch any of these other ones off of it, because it's
The Conjuring 2. The Conjuring 2
is so good. I can't let it taint my memory of the movie. I refuse to let it.
The nun character that they make in The Conjuring 2, there's a scene there that like chills your bones. It's really good. Okay. Last Halloween one. Top 5 Halloween candy. What are you going for first as you're picking through your kids' candy tonight? Or if you're Christian who doesn't get any candy because he doesn't go trick-or-treating anymore. For me, in order, number 5, peanut butter M&Ms. Number 4. This one's controversial. They've been putting it in more and more buckets. I grab them every time for my son. Oreos. They make the little like 2-pack of the orange Oreos. You better believe I'm chowing down on those bad boys. Number 3, Skittles. Prefer the red ones, but we'll take the purple and blue. Number 2, Twix. Number 1, the undisputed champion, Kit Kat. I you know those little like those little 2 ones they just break it out. I 2-bite those babies. Done.
Don't even make the same amount of Kit Kat. That's what people don't understand. Is that you're 2-biting it. It's still you're getting the same amount. You're not doing it in a weird way. No, okay. Number 5 for me, Twix. 4, Milk Duds. 3, candy corn. I know that's kind of not everybody likes candy corn, but it's fantastic.
I like candy corn.
Yes. 2 is Fun Dip, which I think is probably pretty low on a lot of people's lists. But that powder, dude, it's so good, man.
Fun Dip?
Yes, Fun Dip. I'm crunching. No,
I was already questioning your age when you said you were old enough to drink in 2019 at the playoff game. I was doing the math. That was 5 years ago. I know how old you like. I think you might have been sneaking something into Arrowhead. All the security in you. Fun Dip, though. Are you snorting it or do you eat it?
You do whatever you want with it, man. It's Fun Dip. You can have fun with it. It's in the name. Number 1 is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All-time GOAT.
Surprised you didn't say Bottle Pop or Ring Pop.
Ring Pops are good. They didn't make the list. But
I tell you what, I didn't put it on here because I don't consider it Halloween candy. I am down with Nerd Gummy Clusters. They have a stranglehold on my life I cannot describe. All I can tell you is if they're in my house, I'm eating them. I can't buy them because if they're in the house, I'm going to eat them all. It's just how it's going to be. Thank you for joining us on this Power Rankings episode. You know you can put Arrowhead Addict as your number 1 on your Power Rankings for Chiefs content because we've got a show every single day of the week. You got to like, you got to subscribe. Please leave a review. We're trying to get to 400 reviews on the show. This was a fun episode just to kind of have some fun, take a break, and share some nonsense and some Chiefs takes as we get through this. But please make sure you join us for the post-game, halftime show, and pre-game show. Every Chiefs game, I'll be hosting the halftime show on Monday and post-game. Be sure to join us. Thank you for choosing Arrowhead Addict. Thank you to producer Richard. Thank you to my good friend, Christian Ainsworth. And as always, go Chiefs.